Welcome back. I've been thinking about reincarnation, channeling, some ideas that seem a little bit weird, perhaps a little bit woo-woo, especially in our Western world. But is there a chance that it could be real? And if it's not real, then what's happening with the people that they do think they are channeling or they are seeing a past life? What's that all about? Reincarnation is not a new thing. The concept has been around since perhaps the beginning. I don't know. I can't go all the way back to the beginning of human civilization, but it's in Buddhism, Hinduism, Kabbalah. But obviously in the Western world where Christianity is the dominant religion, reincarnation isn't believed. So what's the difference? Why is it that in the East they can believe in these things or they have these traditions, but in the West we don't? It's an interesting cultural difference that there is. And I'm not sure exactly what explains it. And I know that some people don't necessarily believe that we even have souls, but it seems as though physics and science is getting closer and closer to proving or having evidence that supports the suggestion that we are a soul, because at the core of it, we are energy. I think it's like 99+% of our body is actually just energy. When you go down to the atoms, everything is energy in the center. And so whatever, we're basically all energy. And science says that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. So if we are energy, then what are we transformed into? And perhaps can we transform numerous times into different types of things? And I believe it's quantum physics that is now beginning to suggest that it's not the mind that creates consciousness, but consciousness that creates the mind and that perceives everything around us. So perhaps there's more and more evidence to suggest that we're not this physicality, that we're something else, that we're some energy of some sort animating this body and perceiving the world around us. And, I grew up in a Christian home, raised Christian, went to Christian school my whole life except for first and second grade. So I know the stories well. I know some Bible verses by heart. Admittedly, not as many as I would like to, because I think that there's a lot of great information, a lot of amazing things that you can learn and beautiful stories that can be taken from it. And there was always this one part in Christianity that didn't make sense to me, that just confused me a little bit. And mind you, I am on a journey of discovering. I don't know if I'll ever be at the finish line of this journey of discovery until perhaps I die. But then who knows, maybe the journey just it continues after that. I'm not sure. But so when I was younger, the one thing that always felt a little weird to me, and I'm not looking for anyone to convince me that I am wrong, I'm just sharing my thoughts, and I'm not trying to convince you of anything, was that, this human life, the average age that a human lives is like not even 100 years. And that is a tiny blip in existence. It's tiny, tiny, tiny. And so if we're to think that the Christian religion as it's taught today, which it has been a little bit different in the past, especially in the earliest days of Christianity, before the exact canonical scripture was put together and all these things, whatever, we can go into that another time because I need to do my own research a lot more on that. But if we're to believe that we have this one life to figure out the truth and to commit our lives to that, and yet we are fallible human beings, we're so easily deceived by the so-called devil, that didn't make sense to me. That felt a little weird. Now, that led to me believe that, well, maybe reincarnation makes more sense because you get multiple tries or infinite tries to find your way back to God or to find your way back to truth. That seems a little bit more likely to me. So maybe that's support for it. And then I listened to plenty of near-death experience stories. You can find a ton of them on YouTube. There's also a bunch of books about it. And a common theme is that people who even feel like they have gone into hell, there always comes a moment where, at least the stories that I've listened to, granted, there comes a moment where light comes into them, or maybe they ask for the light to be saved or something like that. And what they feel like as the presence of God shows up and gives them a chance, like, come with me. And if the human soul can allow themselves, then they get to go. But that makes sense to me. Okay, so maybe reincarnation isn't real. Maybe when you pass away, you get infinite chances on the other side to choose the light or to forgive yourself in order to go to the light. There are some really beautiful stories about it, by the way. I find that to be one of the most comforting things to watch. Anyway, so back to reincarnation. Is it real? I will say I am a trained past life regressionist. I've been on quite a journey in my life, exploring different healing modalities, and one day, totally sober, no psychoactive material whatsoever, I was lying down I was with a group of people. There was no chanting. There was nothing weird going on, nothing woo-woo. I was just lying down, and all of a sudden I was blasted into what felt like this other life. And it was, first of all, it was so freaking cool because I was able to be fully in that life, in that experience, and fully in this room at the same time. Granted, I was lying down, my eyes were closed, but I could hear things that were happening in the room that my body was physically in, and I could experience everything that was happening in this other world. I could smell things. I could feel things on my body. Oh, it was so vivid. It was so vivid. And what I found was the story that played out related to something that was going on in my current life that I was having a hard time letting go of, that I just couldn't really make sense of. And that story, while dramatic and epic and so cool, it helped me see the situation in this life from a different perspective. Ah, that's why I do that. That's why I've allowed that to be in my life. And I was able to let go of it. It's something that had plagued me for years. Suddenly seeing it in this way allowed me to understand it from a deeper lens and to release it and to let go of it. And I think that we think about healing a lot of times as being hard work, really hard, painful, endless tears. And yeah, I absolutely cried in this situation. There were times where I saw other people in that life that I knew were characters in this life. And so we played out this dynamic there that explained this dynamic here. It was seriously so cool. And when I came out of it, I was like, I don't know if I could have ever made that up. That was wild. That was absolutely insane. And it was so freaking cool because it actually allowed me to understand and to heal this thing without having to go through years of therapy and all this intense stuff. And so that led me on a journey of, well, I would love to do this for other people. And so I found a modality where I could. I found a method. It's called quantum healing hypnosis technique. You guide people into a deep trance state. They're lying down, again, nothing psychoactive, and then they begin to see things. I don't tell my clients what to see at all. Everything comes from their subconscious or from their soul, and it's absolutely fascinating what comes through. I've had people who have, totally normal lives. And I've had people who've had kind of extraordinary lives, who have these grand tales, who have this knowledge and mystery that's revealed during it. I've never had a Cleopatra. I've never had a Roman emperor or a pharaoh or anything like that, but that have deep meaning to my clients, that helps explain something that's going on in their life, maybe something that's permeated their consciousness for a while, perhaps an irrational, in quotes, fear that they have that doesn't really make sense. And through this process, they're able to heal it, to detach from it. It's remarkable. And literally, just like I said, after I had my spontaneous one with no prompting, I was not in hypnosis, nothing. I just literally laid down and those things unfolded. It was so freaking insane. But really what I think it was, I think my soul was like, okay, we're ready to heal this. We're ready to let go of this. So let me just show you this. That way you can do it. But every single one of my clients comes back and said, I couldn't have made that up. The details that you experience are so next level, and you really do have this total dual consciousness experience of being fully there and fully here at the same time. Now, maybe I should have said this earlier, but don't take this to be me saying that I absolutely believe in past lives. I think that it's most likely a probability. And I'm not attached to any of these things, to anything that my client saw or that I saw being a past life. Because what matters to me most is the healing that comes from that experience. I think too often, especially in these new age Western communities, People get so attached to this past life, and people walk around, oh, I was a pharaoh in my past life, or I was Cleopatra. And they get so attached to it. They find value and their own identity in it, but that is completely missing the point. Because seeing that past life, what could be considered a past life, maybe it is. Maybe it's the most elaborate story that your soul has ever told, that came from your subconscious to explain what's happening in your life in a way that you could actually receive it, accept it, and do something about it. Because if you have something that's been going on for a long time, you got to get something that would kind of crack through your exterior. Are they past lives? Maybe. Maybe they are. And maybe this is just one tool that the soul or our subconscious uses to transmit a message to us. Because in the lives that my clients have seen, it always provided context to something that they were going through in this life, or it provided encouragement to something that they wanted to do in this life, or it gave them direction of something that they wanted to do. And so by seeing it happen in this life, that like, oh, I did it back here, I can do it here again. It was just like this roundabout way to give encouragement or to say, go for it. And this is kind of similarly what I think about with channeling, that in the Bible, there are angels and people who receive direct messages from God and a burning bush and all these sorts of things. So who's to say that the angelics or God or these other beings aren't communicating directly to people to give them messages to share with the world today? I think it's totally possible. And I'm not saying that all of them are not channeling something, because I think that some people probably are. And at the same time, I think there are some people who feel like they're channeling, but perhaps they're not. Perhaps what's happening is that they don't feel comfortable that the messages that they're so-called channeling could actually come from themselves, that it's actually coming from within them, from their own subconscious. Or maybe it's God. And so they say, oh, it's the Pleiadians, or it's the Arcturians, it's the Galactic Federation, whatever. But we all have had experiences where we tell someone something, oh, I just learned this, or this is a really cool tool that I just learned, and it's dismissed. But then later that person comes back to you so excited to tell you about something new that they learned from some figure who they respect and who perhaps has more of an authority figure in their life, or that they admire more. And suddenly they were able to hear that message. And so I think that's something that we can do for ourselves, that our subconscious mind might trick us into thinking, oh, it's coming from this, just to break through the ego barrier, to make it feel like it's coming from something greater, something mystical, something fantastic. And then finally, we're able to actually hear the message that's wanting to get through. If you have seen a past life, the most important thing is don't get attached to that identity. It's not about that. You are here in this life to live this life. You are this self. You are your soul. That if there is previous lives, you are the soul that has permeated every single thing. And your job, your role is to come back to that. Don't get lost in past lives. People get distracted by it. They feel some sort of superiority at times because of that. It's not about that. It's about looking at the life that you've seen or that you're drawn to or that you feel like you lived, figure out what is the message that's there, what's the energy that I want to embody that life has, bring it into my life here so I can experience it here and now, and it doesn't just stay there. And same thing with channeling. When you listen to a channeler, if you do, take what resonates and leave what doesn't, and use your discernment. If it's coming from love, if it's all uplifting and peaceful, great. If it's a doomsday thing, maybe disregard it. But I'm curious, what do you think about past lives and channeling? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your own experience. Maybe you've seen a past life, or maybe you're a channeler. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you next time.